Hi, my name is Vaishali Nayak. I work as Head of Software Engineering in Digital Technology. As a child, I always loved maths and problem solving, so technology was a natural choice for me. So I feel pleased to be a part of an industry that makes all the innovative ideas a reality. I started at Sky in 2011 as a software engineer. After a few years as a software engineer, I moved into management roles. I've done 7 different roles at Sky, software engineer, technical analyst, delivery manager, and currently as a head of software engineering. So it has been a really rewarding journey, working for different areas within Sky, like content platforms, global OTT, and more recently in digital technology. So I think what I've learned at Sky is there's lots of opportunities. You just have to go and seize it. I lead teams in digital service. Our ambition is to make awesome digital customer experience, and my teams play a huge role in that. While Sky is dynamic and fast-paced, it's also very collaborative and inclusive. It's fun working at Sky. There's always new ideas, new opportunities that you can try out. Personally, from a career progression perspective, I've been able to try out many different roles and grow as an engineer, grow as a person, and I'm constantly learning all the time. Sky's vision is creating an awesome digital experience for our customers, and I'm really excited to be a part of that vision. My teams will work on this ambition and make it a reality. Sky's value of believing in better is something we always strive every day. I'm the chair of the Tech Women Committee at Sky. Our aim is to build a supportive community for women in technology, product and data, and other areas of Sky. We have a group of passionate women and male allies who help us build a supportive community and create initiatives to attract, progress, and retain female talent. I think we have a long way in getting women into technology. We've just started in this journey, and technology is also not the first choice for young girls, so there's a lot to do in that area as well. So in Tech Women, we focus on inspiring the next generation. So we recently had our Women in Engineering Day, and the theme that we chose was inspiring the next generation. So we had schoolgirls coming in, giving them an experience of what does it mean to work in technology, and giving them a real idea of what it means to work in technology. Technology doesn't always mean coding. There are many other different roles in technology. So there's many different opportunities and avenues that women can actually try out. So there's nothing to be scared of, and also showing that there are so many women already working here, and we are really thriving and supporting each other in getting more talent into technology.
We're both here to talk about AR. I'll let Rich introduce himself first, and then we'll pick up a conversation that will probably run for 40 minutes bang on, knowing us.
Hey guys, I'm Richard Knuckles. I'm the creative director of the innovation and the AI team. My personal specialty is immersive, so I've been a VR producer and director for the last actually 12 years. And my role at Sky has been to explore that relationship between immersive and our customers. You know, can we as a broadcaster start to experiment and play within this area? And for the last 6 years, I'm really proud to say that Sky has been a leading voice in this investigation. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And I'm James Clement. I'm Director of Operations for Sky Sports, so overseeing the long-term workflows and contractual side of how we work with our suppliers and how we apply what we can do with technology into our workflows and deliver our creative and content team's dreams. So that's the hope, that's the challenge.
It's quite a weighty subject that we're going to be talking today, and actually what's great about James and our relationship is that we sit across 2 very important divisions within Sky. I'm representing product, and James is representing content through sports. But I think the best way James is that we kind of go, I think you should lead, quite frankly. There's a number of kind of important innovations that have been happening within sports, and so maybe we can just kind of move through that and then...
Yeah. So, Ollie, if you want to run the first VT, from Sky Sports' point of view, we are very proud to be able to bring high tier sports to customers and have the room to let our editorial analysis and story breathe. That in itself has generated over the last 25 years, as you can see, an evolution of the way that we do that analysis. So some of the stuff you're seeing here is early versions of various softwares and analysis techniques in order to be able to bring that story closer to the customer. All of what you're seeing here is specifically football. I'll talk about some of the sports later on. But you can see now, as we go back, some of the technologies, this one especially will be prevalent to what we start to talk about. But the ability to tell that story has got more complicated over time as the rules also change and the accuracy of things like refereeing changes as well. So we need to evolve our tools and make sure that we're ahead of the game in order to be able to give some of our key talents the ways that they can interpret what they have seen or what they have heard, or their past playing experience.
It's amazing to see. Each one of those would have been cutting edge at the time.
Yes, yeah, I mean, yes. So yeah, quite a bit. This is before my time, but at home I was watching it. You know, it was cutting edge. So the ability for Dave Jones to walk around the players and them look like they're in the same room as him is key. Some of these have also clearly gone into the officiating part of the game, so the offsides are now a key part of the VAR system. We'll leave anyone's views on that. This was a real-time tracking tool so that we could understand where players were on the pitch at any one time. So this was live in the game, which is again a key part of how we want to be able to tell our analysis. We want to be able to do it live in-game as well as post. So again, we'll probably touch on some of that.
Were these happening in the truck? So this is all happening on OB, or was it?
Yeah, largely these are all within the truck, or in the case of Monday Night Football, it would be back at Sky, but with the main infrastructure back here. It depends where our studio talent was back then. Obviously, we've evolved that workflow in the more recent 4 years and accelerated that through COVID, so that a lot more of our infrastructure and control is back here. So yeah, this is obviously the goal decision system when that was implemented. Touchscreens in commentary so that people can talk through. And again, you see the quality of the pure graphics and the way that they sit within the production increasing year on year as we kind of catch up with where we're at.
It's interesting, actually, as a sports fan, you almost expect Sky to be leading. Like each year, it's going to be something different, something new.
Yes.
The way that they...
And that is a constant challenge that we put on ourselves, and that comes from our content teams and our customers' expectations, that every year we build on what we've done before, and our Sky creative team and our G&D and our CT&I, as well as all of our suppliers, will keep bringing ideas to us. And part of my job and part of our experience as well has been to create some reality check around what is going to be achievable out in the field, because some of the ideas that come to us, frankly, will struggle in some of the sports to make them a sustainable operational model, which is a bit different to when we operate in stunts.
Well, I mean, just from those examples that you shared, the clear 2D graphics overlays, and now you're starting to integrate that 3D
Yes.
Integration, which is...
Yeah, so I think they're a good segue for me. I didn't rehearse that. So if we look at the second VT, the kind of point around the augmented reality that we talk about, where we're up to now is that the technology has evolved enough that we can, using, this was Dimension and MRMC working with us, we can, in that little white dome you can see in the background, we could take the player off, take them separately to scan them, bring them back in again, and then a couple of days later use them as a fully formed avatar and analyze their shot. So
I actually went to that shoot where you were trialing that, and it was interesting. So in that sort of Sky Scope area where they were doing the demos, the Steadicam operator had two separate cameras which were tracking his position within the avatars. It was amazing actually. What I felt was how quickly that OB team seemed to adapt to this totally new tech.
Yes, yeah, and again, if Jason Landau and that team were here in the golf team, this was a big lift. It was a big struggle. The amount of data required that needed to go off-site and come back again in order to create this was huge, but it was, it's a breathtaking change. The ability for our guys, Nick, in that particular situation, to be able to walk around the player and talk about the shot that they're playing. We've waited a long time to be able to get to the point where we can make an authentic visualization of play, which then takes us to, I thought I'd use this one. So this is live. Obviously, it's showing recorded now, but this was one of the challenges we had. In everything you saw on the previous VT, Nick couldn't walk fully around the player because, in effect, it's a key on top. So this was us doing a proof of concept because we need to be able to have this visualization in a kind of more volumetric sense so that it can be in the middle of the screen. So yeah, if you kind of understand the process of TV making, you'll see that what Nick just did then without any green screen is actually really challenging in a live sports environment. But this was, again, just us having to get through each barrier and each hurdle in order to make sure that we could evolve to this AR world that we've got in front of us now.
I just naturally presumed that was green screen. So that was
no. So that is our standard Studio 2 golf studio with the same Skyscope avatar that was shot before, with Nick having the ability to walk in front of it.
It's a magic, James. I'm sorry. I need to ask you more questions.
Yeah.
So how does he walk in front? How is that possible?
Yeah, so that is our, I guess, our little secret for the minute, because we want to see how that
Come on, it's an intimate room.
Can play out. Yes, but that's the kind of steps that we need to go through. It's one thing making the Skyscope avatar, but then Nick has to, on site, he has to remain one side of it. And as we get to more sports, you want to be able to interact further with that player. So Nick's ability here to walk around, even though he obviously can't see anything in front of him, he's very good at telling these stories. He's very good at walking around and knowing his own space. But yeah, we need to be able to overcome these parts. All will be constrained at how we can tell the story. And we want to make sure that we offer all of the tools to our content team so they're not limited by a piece of tech. Because once you start to limit that, then you start to skew the story and you start to force the tech going on air. And it's really important that we only pick opportunities where the technology will complement the story instead of forcing it. Because then it doesn't seem authentic and the viewers can spot that straight away.
I had experience working with that Volcap team at Dimension, and it was mind-blowing. I mean, they had 108 cameras, and it was a mixture of sort of RGB standard cameras and then infrared cameras, which then create that version, the performance. Incredible amount of work, and there were definitely some limitations to what I saw working in that system, which was the occlusions like under the arms and anywhere that there's sort of a gap in that performance.
Yes,
so.
Yeah, occlusion is a tough one. So again, as we pick our sports for the early development of the technologies, we pick one where the player never gets occluded. They're not being tackled. No golfers are tackling other ones and then getting up and splitting off. But in the early days of the player tracking, the track cab work that we did quite a few years ago, if two players came together and then split off, we needed to make sure that we continued to identify those two players. In those days, the level of AI and player recognition wasn't really there, so there was a manual intervention to make sure that the two players, as they split off, were quickly re-identified. So you didn't have to track them all the time manually, but if they split again. And that, again, has evolved a lot since we first started there.
We were, the immersive team, were looking at an Anthony Joshua game that we were working with Anthony Joshua's team. So we were getting Anthony to do a series of kind of, his toolkit of boxing moves. And then the idea was that we were then going to transition between using that Volcap data. It's an idea which I'd still love to push forward, but it is interesting once you have those captures, how you can start to manipulate, how you can start to move.
Yeah, and this whole story is talking about how we've taken what was a linear analysis shop front that we use through our main channels in order to then end up having some assets, which we'll come after. So something I picked up earlier that was discussed was that hyperreal element of the deep fakes, and that is another reason why we've we've not pushed on with some technologies that we didn't feel was doing justification, that we could tell the story without it, so let's not overly force it because it's not really getting to the bar we want. There's quite a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that never really actually makes air. But with that Sky Scope, we saw that the player scan and the motion capture using the hundreds of cameras created in a nice safe zone, created a usable asset that we really believe was very authentic.
I think from a product side as well, like we're invested in how we can start to create pipelines that can use those assets all the way across the business as well. So.
Yeah. So then we come on to the Premier League, which was clearly if we're doing a simple, it was a huge lift at the time, a golfer in a set environment, getting from there to being able to do all the players at a football game becomes a completely different question. And back in 2021, early 21, we worked with Hawkeye on fulfilling our own aspirations, that we moved on from the original player tracking conversations that we'd been having quite a few years back, and had moved on to taking that next step to be able to fully understand what broadly gets called skeletal tracking. And there's two elements to how that works. If you understand the skeletal position of a player, then you overlay something on top of them, whether that be an avatar or a real photo volumetric scan. Then you can start to represent large parts of play, and you can start to represent live. So the work that we did, which Ollie, if you can play the Premier League visualization VT, the work that we did on this was truly a massive step forward for us. So what you can see briefly there is the culmination of the cameras tracking. They only had about less than 20 cameras in the stadium tracking this, and it was based on a phone call between myself and Pete at Hawkeye with what can we really do with this. We'd been quite private about some of the stuff we're doing, so they didn't realise that we were quite so into this. But what it gave us the ability to do then is have complete overview of play. Now this looks at the moment like, okay, you've got an unreal recreation of a skeletal tracked player, well done. But then you start to play it, and you see that the representation of the players is awesome. This was a very, very low latency. So this was sub 1 second. So you can see a comparison to the real play here. This was sub 1 second for us to be able to create the representation of the play. I mean,
I've been working in VR for years, and I went to this shoot at Anfield and watched, and sort of I'm there as a just total nerd who loves all this stuff, and I saw the truck outside, the Hawkeye truck, and I must have knocked on that truck's door about 100 times, just trying to get a peep in to look at what they were doing. But It's just crazy. This was live. Yes. This was a live football match where they captured these holograms, and it went out onto, I think Jason Landau from Sky Creative was reviewing it, and it was faster than the actual Sky broadcast.
Yes, the Premier League are working with us and their data providers, and everyone kind of understands that this is a big step forward, and I believe that something similar, or the evolution of it was behind what was used in some officiating on a European football event that happened last night.
It's just the vision of where this is going is clear. I mean, we've had speakers talk about sort of the metaverse and the future and how this, and the last talk, talking about the hyperreal, and obviously this is based around this Silver Surfer look was due to the fact that we weren't quite ready to do that live interpretation of each of the players' faces. However, as we know with tech, just from seeing the first VT that you showed, we're going to move on, and it's going to get better and better and better. For me as a content creator, I look at this and it just makes me so excited for the future. How we as sports fans, we as customers to Sky, are going to be able to manipulate and play with this. So it's exciting times.
And the Silver Surfer this was how we called it. And we had a very healthy debate internally about how far do we keep this off screen for a little bit longer and try and build the players based on scans that we do every summer of them, or do we go sooner and forget the look, because actually what we're analysing is the play. We're not analysing how they look at that time. Also, it just takes an extra step that wasn't necessary at this point. Again, would be trying to overtell something, and it would delay us being able to kind of take this next step if we push too far. So it's all about incremental, taking the best of the facilities that's available to us in order to get to this point. And we settled quite quickly on the fact that let's go for the Silver Surfers, and we'll continue to improve the look over time, because that wasn't as key.
It's interesting as well, because we're kind of at this crossroads between capabilities within Game Engine as well. So you've got the volcap, which you've seen before, versus the mocap, which is the skeletal data. Arguably could be more efficient use of, and therefore easier to distribute across a wide range of devices. But Unity, which is one of the game engines, is betting on volcap as a way to get live sports performance. And I'm so skeptical, because I can't see how they can do volcap of 22 players and for it to be usable on AR devices in real time.
Yes.
So we are actually in a really interesting space, and as an industry, kind of trying to, and I guess you're at the forefront of trying to work all this out and trying.
We're definitely at the forefront of trying to work it out. I don't know if we're at the forefront of doing it. Yeah. There is another system which we haven't used, but our friends at NBA have, which is the Canon system, which creates a volumetric image. And this is this dilemma that we have, and where the reality kind of kicks back in again of at scale capture of 20 stadiums every weekend versus doing one game at Liverpool with a kit that was actually present for another reason, so that we didn't have to suddenly scale out of nowhere. And this remains this challenge where we welcome speaking to anybody who's got an idea, and we're part of the Comcast Sports Tech startups to try and find companies who have got a nugget of an idea and they don't know how to really take it on, all the way through to the Genius Sports, Hawkeyes, the Opta Second Spectrum worlds, companies that have got established data collection, because this is fundamentally all about data collection. We're in that whole spectrum to find these companies, but we have to be able to deploy this at scale across what are sometimes challenging locations. We want to do something working with Formula One. We're talking about multi-country. We want to do something on the Premier League. We're talking about 4 or 5 visits to a stadium across the year. That's where it comes down to the utilization element. Golf, you want to pick the players. Maybe that player doesn't perform that day. Yeah. Again, boxing, you could hedge your bets on fully understanding a boxer, and then their performance might not be maintained. So each sport has its pluses and minuses, and then we'll often come back to the question that I get, and I haven't looked yet, but I'm sure is probably coming our way, around wearables as well. Like, where do we see wearables? And that's because it's all about trying to understand as much as we can about the play, the players, and where the ball is, that kind of stuff. If we know all of that, then we can start to talk about how we can productize it, which we'll come on to in a second. But the largest blocker is there's a big gulf between data that we know is collected through players and their clubs and their agents and their performance coaches, and that availability to us, which we kind of understand. It's a very different level of data use for very different reasons. It's not just going to be automatically available to us. So we have kind of at distance ways of acquiring our data, even though there is probably data available that others have. We kind of accept that that's not going to be made available to us across all sports in all dynamics. So we have to look at different ways of doing it. So hence you get 100 cameras in a stadium, or 100 cameras in a dome, or 20 cameras in a stadium. It becomes a horses for courses thing.
I mean, this is what's so fascinating about Sky and the way that we collaborate. I mean, I since I joined Sky, it feels to me like those bridges between product and content are getting stronger. We in product, certainly within the innovation and AI team, are looking at machine learning. We're looking at the way that we can use the cloud. How do we utilize that data that we can get? How can we tailor specific content for each customer? And how can we use content and products to bring people together. It's an amazing. I mean, you know, we're definitely nerding it out to the max.
Yes.
It is quite amazing. But what I'm really proud about Sky is that, you know, we are constantly collaborating with Comcast as well. And it feels to me, arrogantly saying this, but it almost feels like Comcast see us as this kind of hotbed of innovation, and they're looking to us and seeing what we're doing, which.
Yes, it's that constant dynamic between providing output to the millions and remaining agile and innovating. It's you know, especially during the last couple of years, we've innovated in a lot of different ways in the last couple of years around our workflows, around creating content with a minimal amount of travel or interaction. We're now kind of skewing ourselves back to go, right, let's push on the on-screen innovation again.
Should we have a look at the
crickets? Yeah. So then the kind of slightly longer backstory for where we end up now, or the junction we're at, is that on the cricket for the 100, the idea came around of these avatars. So this is where we go to the kind of next level. Takes all of the elements that you've seen talked about before, so the scanning of the players, the real motion, so that kind of Skyscope part mixed with the ability to then put this content into play. But the next level on this is that asset is available to other parts of our business now, because we're not just a linear DTH provider, we're not just a straight OTT provider, we have product now that can take that asset and put it into the customer's hands. So what you see there is exactly the same asset that's used on screen, available into someone's app, and they can either interact with it or they can start to hologram it onto within their house and share that imagery. So we can pick the best players and represent that. And this is this key junction, and this why augmented reality means so much inside our business at the moment, is because we have some of the best rights across our portfolio. And now we have these incredible products that we can start to take these assets and visualize them. So this debate about what is the right place to do it, what is the right sport, can we do it at scale, is it affordable? Because we're still, you know, this is part of us looking to try and attract a new audience as well, trying to make it more engaging, trying to make it more fun, trying to find people on devices that they prefer rather than the standard TV set, so we can help our brand get exposed, and also bring sports. So the ECB and the 100 is a big participation and a huge collaboration partnership with the 100 being launched. So we're also trying to expand the number of people that would attend the game. So it's also an engagement part on that point of view as well.
What I love about this, what I love about the work that we're doing across Sky is that it's starting to converge with that gaming industry angle as well. So, you know, once you have these assets, I mean, this is a great example with Lauren coming through the wall. You know, you're bringing content into people's living rooms, into people's worlds, and that is fascinating. It's fascinating from a user experience and an interface experience. You know, can we have synced experience where we've got Sky Glass, it understands who's in the room, it's delivering content and changing depending on the customer's experience. But can we also start to twin mobile? You know, can we start to have a relationship between the TV and other devices in the home? It's an amazing area to be in.
Yeah. So as we work through each of our rights, and obviously the longer the right term, the easier it is to develop a technology that's going to be sustainable over a period of time. We now think and collaborate much more across our business, which again brings in these challenges. Wouldn't we love to do this? Well, the reality is we can't scan the player. Or boxing, the classic one that, again, the creative guys struggle with is we don't necessarily know what shorts they're going to wear on the night. So if we create a scan of a boxer, they might wear a different colour shorts. It can be that simple. So we have to go for both, and do we have to look for every option? So all of the conversations we see around augmented reality, how it fits into a metaverse, is, you know, we can see all of those ideas, and kind of our challenge is to translate what we know out in the field is the game, and, you know, protect the the core of that, and then supplement it with these great technologies to then either bring them to new audiences or give them to our pundits to be able to allow them to do better analysis, or both. But it's been attacked. But that's a really interesting dialogue, and we're a great place to be able to do that.
I mean, I know, like my role within innovation and AI, I'm constantly knocking on the door of poor James and bugging him at all times. But within Sky, we've set up a metaverse working group, which is looking specifically at how we as a business can start to break away. Not saying that we're siloed in any way. I think certainly from the sports conversations, you guys are keep in tune with what's going on. But it's how to also bring in the drama team, the documentary teams, the news, and how we can start to look at. So effectively, sports becomes kind of an incubator for innovation, which can then go out across the business. And certainly from my perspective within product, I'm fascinated with working with news or drama, and how we can start to kind of play with this markerless tracking, which is nuts.
Yes. I mean, you've been in marker tracking for a long time. Do you see the markerless as a game changer, or do you see it as a enabler for drama and
massively an enabler? Because when you go to a Hollywood set and you look at the amount of investment that's taken in these incredible sets on these massive stages, and with a few well-placed cameras within the context of that capture, you can get the performance.
Yes.
It's crazy what you can get the performance. I mean, the talk beforehand, the hyper-realism, once you've scanned the actors and you have that data, you have the ability to translate their performance correctly. I mean, it's just amazing. But I guess the fascination, which is what I know you and I are currently in the trenches trying to work out, is how does that translate to our customers? Is it a lean forward experience which uses AR, which allows them to go deeper into the sport? We're great at making live content. We're the best at making live content. Is this something that's going to replace it? I mean, or do we stick with our guns? We've got the best OBs and best directors, and then this is something that engages afterwards.
Yes, it's a really good question. And again, in recent years, we now have the ability to do so many alternate versions. So instead of it feeling like we need to put a technology into our main output, we can create different versions of our output, which is much more tailored to the audience we want to go for. And this is as simple as us creating TikTok or YouTube streams, or put it within our own app off the main event channel, through to us creating a brand new experience, which is not representing the live play, but is engaging and may pull somebody to the live play separately. Because in previous years, there was more of a decision. There was a limited amount of airtime. What are we going to put in there? What piece of analysis or what piece of technology are we going to use in that moment? And then do we run that for 3 years? And then do we look up for another piece for the remaining, or a new 3-year term? Whereas now we can look at this personalization, and we can look at anything from general personalization to hyper personalization. So I can, whether it's me interacting with that avatar or what I have on my Sky Glass set being much more aimed at me, we can pursue these now. And this general point is we can tie, with the way that Sky works, we can tie from the rights all the way through to the various different products and experiment along that way, and us kind of protect someone who doesn't want anything to do. They just want to have a linear, commentated sports event fed to them in a standard way, but also still respect that there are people who we don't necessarily know how they want their coverage. Yeah, we're evolving, and some of the hardest part is understanding a full feedback loop of whether or not anyone engaged, how do they engage, should we go again, do we do more? Vertical is the classic. How is vertical really going to fit in the long run? How do people really use their devices? It's fascinating trying it, but then thankfully we're in a world where we can try far better than we used to be able to do.
I think also the changing demographics and the models, the way that people watch and consume content is clearly changing. And so being we are leading in being ready for that change and understanding what, how to gamify, starting those conversations. I mean, your conversations with the Premier League, there's a keenness on many of these IP holders to experiment, and what I love, I mean, I've been thrown in the trenches with with Formula One and lots of different sort of IPs across drama as well, and it's always fascinating how keen they are for us as Sky to lead forward and start to experiment. Almost to a fault, actually.
Yeah.
I found myself in bit.
Well, as we've seen with that, Rich talks about our Metaverse working group, which kind of came together in what is our own expectations of what a metaverse is, and I'm not the biggest fan of the terminology, because I would argue that Premier League representation is a form of metaverse, and we did it years ago.
Yeah.
We've been in this space. You see a lot of world firsts getting reported in the press, and you think, well, what is this true? If we just put a game out on a platform, is that a metaverse? If you're fully immersed in an entirely CGI environment, is that what it is? It's so many things, and so I think we try and put that word aside and look for engaging experiences through using augmentation, whether it be us understanding a golf course, where the wind is across all the different undulations, through to every player on a football pitch and the ball, or a cricketer in the net, that we want to be able to understand the cricketer at the crease.
I've just come back from the Venice Film Festival, where they have they had sort of 79 of the best VR examples, from producers around the world, and a shocking amount of those were location-based experiences, which is where you put on a VR headset and you can physically walk through an experience. I mean, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it, to have a Sky, given the fact that we have this data, we have the ability, we've got all the assets, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the IP, it's really fascinating where this could go. I mean, I'm not suggesting everyone has VR. In fact, even as a VR producer, I'm sort of almost turning my back on the headsets because we've got Glass, because we've got this new product, Sky Live, coming out. It's flipping that relationship between customer and broadcaster in an immersive way. I mean, we are effectively reinventing the living room. And what I love about what you do, James, is whereas I'm kind of like the airy-fairy sort of, creative, come up with crazy ideas, which invariably sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, you're actually making it. You're doing it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a perfect segue to the first question. What's the latest on AR viewing technologies, in particular smart glasses? Definitely hand that question to you.
Well, whispers. Everyone is involved in, certainly within Silicon Valley and across the world. Any hardware manufacturer of VR glasses is actively looking at pass-through technology and augmented reality. And then the whisper of Apple getting involved, according to one of the producers that I met in Venice, they seem to be ramping up for early next year release of their AR propositions. Now, I've been saying this for about 5 years, and Apple have never delivered. So, pinch of salt on that one. But if you've tried pass-through technologies, if you've tried Magic Leap, it is fascinating. And what I love about the hot air that's comes up about talking about augmented reality and mixed reality. A lot of the magic can still be done through your mobile phone and smartphone, and a lot of the tracking capabilities and all of the exciting features that mixed reality glasses will bring, you already have in your pocket. And so we as a company can start to explore and experiment with the assets we have.
Yes. And
the current mobile phones with customers. So.
And that's you touch on a good point there. That's the end game product. From my point of view, we're not overly worried. We're focusing on creating the best possible asset, and then how that's then used, how it's augmented into into either a product or something, we can let the product team, because we've been on this journey with you with big headsets going to smaller headsets. We support that because we know it'll evolve somewhere, and then we want to make sure we're ready with these assets. The other way around would be to wait for the use case to appear and then us try and react. And it kind of touches on a question coming up that we work closely with all of the sporting bodies to make sure that these things aren't a shock, so that golfers have already been through a Dimension experience in a dome to understand how it can benefit them. There's parts of Comcast that look at how through our golf direct-to-customer propositions that you can be trained as well. So there's avenues throughout, and we want to make sure that sports individuals, their bodies and the clubs and the leagues kind of hear what we're talking about doing. So we have to balance being super top secret and also engaging to understand why we're doing these things, because largely they require either infrastructure or collaboration with the sporting individuals. So the next question, could the Silver Surfer Hawkeye data be used to accurately flag up offsides rather than rely on the very manual VAR process? So I kind of alluded to earlier, this isn't, so on the Premier League, the rule officiating element and our visualization are separate. They are, the VAR and how that evolves is a separate part to what you see us do. But I think there's some use cases now and in the run-up to Christmas which are out there, which I'd kind of steer people to. They're just not in my world, around how this kind of technology that we did 18 months ago has evolved into what gets called semi-automated offsides now. But I guess to briefly say it, yes, the data obviously has connection into that. I mentioned the NBA. Are you partnering with sharing innovations with other sporting enterprises? So yes, pretty much every sport has some kind of connection in. We don't do any of these without working with the sport themselves. So whether it's scanning AJ a few years back, or the Dimension clearly sticking a dome at a golf course, needs the full permission and the full collaboration, and with the players themselves. So we want that to be a constant dialogue, partly because we want to be able to make sure that the players are comfortable, but also the leagues are interested because it could be a new monetization model for them, or largely it's seen as a new way of engaging. And as we know, all sports are looking for ways to grow their engagement. Why wouldn't you? So there's always an opportunity there. And then the last question, in your opinion, James, what is the most exciting use case for AR in sport coming through the pipeline? So I'd say there isn't a single use case. It's more about the pulling together all of these elements that we talked about in order to be able to deliver a true customer interaction with assets. So it's bringing together the scanning, the real life representation, the products that the guys keep bringing us up with. All of those parts together mean that we can then productize in an exciting way. But clearly the ability for me to manipulate play at home, or possibly even replay myself a play. So if I've seen something in an event, I don't want to have a go at it myself, we will understand the data, we will have visualized it for you, you can have a go, and we'll understand how good your go was. So a whole other subject of gamification, but that's what we can do with it.
It's the ultimate VIP, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the ultimate, this is Sky putting you right in the heart of the action, and it's absolutely fascinating and exciting place to be.